welcome to Narayana IAS. I am Pratik, your faculty for Daily News Analysis. Now students, in today's DNA session, we shall be focusing on 5 most important topics from the Hindu and the Indian Express. So let's have a quick brief of the topics that we shall be discussing in today's session. The first topic is taken from Hindu page number 6. Now, given that India-China relations are fraught with challenges, the author of the article has discussed few solutions that both nations can think of and implement to overcome the challenges. The second article is taken from Indian Express page number 14. Now, in this article, we are going to understand the issues the transgenders of our country are facing. Given that the Nalsa judgment of Supreme Court gave rights to the transgenders, there are issues with respect to implementations of the rights of the transgenders. The third article is taken from Hindu page number 8. Now, given that the Supreme Court has allowed the states to subcategorize the scheduled castes, in the same light, the Supreme Court has upheld a law made by Tamil Nadu in the year 2009 which subcategorized scheduled caste. The fourth article is taken from Hindu page number 8. Now, given the devastating landslide in Wayanad which killed over 300 people, the central government has reissued draft notification classifying parts of Western Ghats as ecologically sensitive areas. The fifth article is taken from Indian Express page number 1. Now, in order to give a big push to the infrastructure sector, the central government has approved 8 high-speed corridor projects. So, in this article, you'll understand what is build, operate, transfer and PPP model. And finally, we shall be discussing few practice questions so that you get to know the type of questions that can be asked in the UPSC examination. So, let's get started. Students, the title of the first topic is the 5 guidelines to dragon elephant tango. Your dragon attributes to China and elephant attributes to India. Right. So, in this article, we are going to understand the India and China relations, and you can map this under GS paper 2. Right. So, let's go through a previous question asked in the year 2017. China is using its economic relations and positive trade surplus as tools to develop potential military power status in Asia. In the light of the statement, discuss its impact on India as her neighbor. So, such type of questions can be asked in the UPSC examination. So, let us try to understand the context. The Chinese ambassador to India. Now, this ambassador has discussed the framework for improving the India and China relations. We all know that the India and China relations are fraught with tensions, political tensions, military tensions, economic tensions. In order to overcome these challenges, the Chinese ambassador has provided certain guidelines and framework to overcome the challenges. And these challenges, they are based on 5 principles. Which are these 5 principles? Mutual respect, mutual understanding, mutual trust, mutual accommodation and mutual accomplishment. So, respect, understanding, trust, accommodation and accomplishment. Very, very important point which you can mention in your mains answer. So, please note this 5 principles: trust, understanding, respect, accommodation and accomplishment, right? And these guidelines, they aim to bring the India-China relations back to a stable and sound track. This is the purpose of the principles. This is the context. Now, let us try to understand the India and China issues, and so that we can focus on the solution to overcome the challenges. The relations between both the countries are marked by historical, political and economic issues, and these are long-standing and complex issues between both the countries. So, let us try to understand each issue one by one. The first one is the border dispute. When it comes to border dispute between India and China, now India and China have border dispute in the western sector, in the eastern sector as well as the central sector. Now, let me just help you with a diagram. This is the western sector. This is the Aksai Chin region. This is the McMahon line. Now, McMahon line is a line that divides India and China, right? Now, China does not recognize this McMahon line. China claims Arunachal Pradesh, right? China claims Arunachal Pradesh, right? So, this is the western sector and this is the eastern sector and this is the central sector around Sikkim. So, these are the border disputes between India and China. Now, what is the solution? The solution is there has to be mutual accommodation between both the countries and both the countries have to resolve the disputes through dialogue and peaceful negotiation. In dialogue, you mean there have to be diplomatic talks. Then there has to be military communication channels which should be open, which means the military leaders of both the countries should be engaging so as to build confidence building measures. It is very important that both the nations have to work towards confidence building measure as we had framed during the year 1993 agreement on the maintenance of peace and tranquility along the India-China border. So, diplomacy is the only way through which we can resolve the border disputes and there has to be frequent diplomatic talks between both the nations. So, the first one is the border dispute, the western sector, the eastern sector and the central sector, right? Now, recently in the year 2020, there's a Galwan clash, right? Both the militaries of India and China, they clashed against each other. There was skirmish that led to the lives of few Indian soldiers as well as Chinese soldiers. So, this is the first issue. The second issue is the economic competition and the trade imbalance. Now, both the nations have trade imbalance, which means we import more from China than what we export. So, there's trade deficit with India, right? Now, if you see the 2024 trade, the trade was around $120 billion, which has reduced from the last few years. We import around 100 billion worth of goods from China. We export only about 16 billion worth of goods. So, the trade deficit amounts to $85 billion, which means we owe this amount to China, $85 billion. This is the second issue. So, solution, how do we overcome this issue? By emphasizing mutual accomplishment. Both the countries have to enhance economic cooperation. Now, how do you cooperate? You have to cooperate on sectors in which both India and China complement each other, such as technology, pharmaceuticals and renewable energy. Collaborative ventures and easing restrictions on bilateral trade can help to arrive at a balanced trade relation between both the nations, which means we have to leverage each other's strengths. We have to focus on joint ventures where both India and China can benefit by trading with each other. These are the top 10 items exported to China and this we import from China. So, please go through it and try to remember few goods. This is second issue. First one border issue. The second one was trade imbalance. The third one is the geopolitical rivalry. The geopolitical landscape of the world, they see India and China both as competitors, especially in the Indo-Pacific region. Now, China is having close ties with Pakistan and China has invested massively in China's Belt and Road Initiative, which is conflicting with the India's interest. Now, what is Belt and Road Initiative? So, this is the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. Belt and Road Initiative. One belt and one road initiative. Belt is the maritime route. The belt is the Silk Road. Now, see, this is China. So, China is trying to connect to Africa, Europe, right? One through maritime route, the other one through Silk Road. The reason why China is investing massively in infrastructure is because China can export their manufactured goods to different parts of the world. For that, you need infrastructure, and that's the reason China is investing massively in infrastructure. Right? So, this is the Belt and Road Initiative, but the problem with Belt and Road Initiative is it is passing through India, Jammu and Kashmir. That's the reason it is conflicting with India's interest. I hope you understood the point. And what is solution? Both the countries need to have mutual trust. Both these countries have to see each other as partners and not as rivals, right? So again, both the countries have to focus on dialogues and multilateral platforms for better understanding and coordination, right? Now, which are these multilateral platforms? Like, for example, we have Shanghai Cooperation Organization, we have BRICS. So these are the platforms where both the nations can engage with each other to find solution to the problems. This is the third issue, the geopolitical rivalry. The fourth one is the trust deficit. Now, given that there are historical tensions between both the nations, starting with the 1962 war, 1967 war, and there have been frequent skirmishes or standoffs, this has actually harmed the relation between India and China. And the nationalistic media narratives, they influence the public opinion in both the countries. And that's the reason people have hatred against each other, right? And the solution is we have to enhance mutual understanding. And how we can do it? By focusing on soft power. What is soft power? Cultural exchanges. Now, India and China have cultural relations, historical cultural connections. We'll see this in the next slide. Academic collaborations, there have to be scholarship programs wherein Indians can go to China and Chinese can come to India, people to people contact, so that the perception that we have for each other can be filled, right? So this can be the solution. So these are the four issues that we have discussed. One is the border issue, the economic issues, the geopolitical rivalry, and the trust deficit. Now, the other dimensions which have been mentioned in the article, one is the cultural and historical ties. As I told you, both the countries have a long historical and cultural connection. For example, the ancient Nalanda University and the monk Wanzang's travels. The connections between these two universities emphasize that India and China had long historical and cultural relation, and we have to use this platforms. For example, India has revamped the Nalanda University. So these monuments or these things can act as a fodder, or they can literally cement the ties between India and China. They can act as foundation for strengthening the modern relations. And how we can do it? How we can strengthen the modern relations? Through cultural diplomacy and heritage tourism. The second one is the Global South cooperation. Now, Global North is attributed to all the developed countries and Global South is attributed to all the developing or poor countries, right? Now, India and China can emerge as, or they can play very, very important role in shaping the future of Global South. India and China can be the leaders of the Global South and can understand the issues of the Global South and find solutions to their problems. So we have platforms like BRICS and SCO that we just discussed. We can use this platform, both the nations, to promote the interests of the developing or poor countries. The third one is the technology and innovation partnership. Now, technology and innovation partnership, both the countries can act as leaders in technology and innovation. That is, we both can collaborate in artificial intelligence, space exploration and digital economy. Collaborating in technology will not only boost relations between both the countries, but also contribute to the global technological advancement, right? And then way forward, again, all these points we have discussed already. We have to strengthen diplomatic channels. There have to be frequent diplomatic engagement between both the countries. Then promote economic integration. We have to sign trade agreements with each other so that both the countries benefit by trading with each other. We have to focus on infrastructure, technology, manufacturing, right? Then enhancing cultural and academic exchanges to promote soft power. Now, this will generate goodwill and mutual trust for people in each other country. Collaborating on global challenges. Both the countries can emerge as leaders to address the emerging challenges like climate change, pandemic response and sustainable development. And fifth one is in order to find solutions to the regional security, right? The South Asian region, or let's say the Asian continent, or the economic policies, both the countries need to have strategic trust. So by implementing all these 5 guidelines, India and China relations can be smoothened, can be improved. So in order for the development of South Asian region as well as the Asian continent, it is very, very important that both India and China had to come together, collaborate in technological sectors, and ensure that there is mutual trust, mutual advancement, so that with India and China, the entire continent will benefit. I hope students you understood each and every dimension of this article. The title of the next topic is Dignity Denied. Now, in this article, we are going to understand about Transgender Persons Act 2019 and NALSA. And you can map this under GS paper 2. So, let's go through a previous question asked in the year 2022. The Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act remains only legal document without intense sensitization of government functionaries. So, a similar question can also be asked on the transgenders. What is the context? The context is that this article highlights the issues that the transgenders are facing. Challenge regarding or relating to their change of genders from, let's say, male to transgender, or the third gender, or female to third gender. So, this is a challenge that they are facing. Now, given that in the year 2014, the Supreme Court of India in the NALSA judgment, of 2014, the Supreme Court gave rights to the transgender community. The right of self-identifications, which means the transgenders have the right to self-identify themselves. This was the right that the Supreme Court had given to the transgender community. But there is a gap between the legal recognition and implementation. Legally, the transgenders have been given the rights, but it is not enforced strictly. Now, this is a problem in each and every scheme. But here we'll focus on the transgenders. Now, what is this NALSA judgment of 2014? Very, very significant. It is a landmark judgment in the history of these Supreme Court of India judgments. Why? Because it recognized the rights of transgender individuals as part of the fundamental right to equality, life and personal liberty. Right? Now, the key aspects of judgments. 1. Right to self-identifications, which means the transgenders would have the right to self-identify themselves without undergoing medical procedure. Very, 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 very important. It is not important, not necessary for the transgenders to undergo medical procedure if they feel, let's say for example, there is a man, right, and he feels that his characteristics are more suited to be female. Now, this person can declare himself as trans woman, right? So, they have the right to identify themselves without medical procedure. Second is, this judgment recognizes third gender, which means the transgenders can be recognized as third gender. Then it also directed the governments to ensure or to take steps for the welfare or betterment of social and economic welfare of the transgender community. For that, the governments have to focus or should think about providing reservation in education and employment. The fourth one is, the Supreme Court held that it is very important that the public should be sensitized about the rights of the transgenders. So, these are few aspects of the judgment. But unfortunately, despite the progressive stance taken by the Supreme Court in the year 2014, the implementation of the legal recognition given to transgenders has been poor. Now, let us also understand what is NALSA. NALSA is National Legal Services Authority, which was established under the Legal Service Authorities Act, which means it is a statutory body. What is the purpose of NALSA? To provide free legal services to the weaker sections of the society. Purpose is to provide free legal services. And how do they provide free legal services? by organizing Lok Adalats so that disputes can be resolved in an amicable, friendly manner. This is the purpose of NALSA. NALSA is headquartered in the Supreme Court. It is located in the Supreme Court and the Chief Justice of India is the patron-in-chief of NALSA. Very, very important for your pre-examination. The third, NALSA, it functions throughout the country. For example, NALSA includes state legal service authorities and district legal service authorities. The state and district, they organize Lok Adalats at the state and the district level to resolve the disputes in a friendly manner. Now, this NALSA is actually fulfilling a constitutional mandate as mentioned in Article 39A. What is 39A? To provide equal access to justice for all the citizens. So, NALSA is actually implementing this constitutional provision. And finally, NALSA is responsible for laying down policies and principles for legal services. It also gives funds to the state legal service authorities as well as it implements the legal aid schemes in our country. Please do remember that this NALSA is for the vulnerable sections like women, children, the SCs, the STs, the transgenders, the old aged people, etc. Right? Now we'll understand about the challenges that the transgender people are facing as well as solution. The first one, now in order to provide rights, the Government of India had framed the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act 2019. But this act is mandating that the transgender people have to undergo medical procedure to change their gender. Now this actually contradicts with the NALSA judgment of the Supreme Court. This is very, very important. Right? So the problem is the law made by the Parliament is violating the Supreme Court judgment. What is the solution? The solution is that we have to amend this particular law and we have to eliminate the requirement of medical proof, which means if a person wants to identify himself as, let's say, female or let's say transgender, he has a right without undergoing medical procedure. And it is very important that the procedure has to be clear and straightforward. It should not be complicated. That's it. The first issue and the solution. The second, delays in application processing. Now, as of 2023, around 3,200 applications are pending. Now, there is a mandated 30-day period within which the officials have to process the application. But unfortunately, it is not happening. So, why? Because of the inefficient system, it is getting delayed. Solution is that we have to ensure that the applications are processed within the mandated 30-day period, and for that we can actually use leverage technology to track applications, right? At the same time, it is very important that the Government of India ensures accountability. There has to be accountability mechanism set so that in case anyone is not doing their job, they should be held liable and they should be punished. This is second issue and the solution. The third issue is with respect to lack of empathy and discrimination. Now, the common people, they are not sensitized or they do not have sensitivity towards the transgender people. This empathy which is lacking, which is missing towards the transgender people. That's the reason the transgender people face a discrimination from the government officials, employers, society, etc. And this leads to mental distress and humiliation. And the solution is that there has to be sensitization programs. The government officials, the hospital doctors, the nurses, the society at large should be sensitized about the rights of the transgender people. So, if there can be a male gender and a female gender, there can also be a third gender. Time has come for the society to recognize and respect the rights of the transgender people. This is not a fashion, this is not a fad, this is a biological development and one has to understand and appreciate this development. Again, we need to also have public awareness campaigns. The fourth one is poor implementation of welfare schemes. For example, we have welfare schemes like Garima Griha and Smile. Now, Garima Griha, it provides safe and secure shelter to transgender individuals in need. And then Smile, that is support for marginalized individuals for livelihood and enterprise. It provides comprehensive rehabilitation, welfare and protection for marginalized individuals. Now, despite the fact that these are the laws or schemes that the Government of India has framed, the implementation is very, very, very poor, right? And that's the reason we have to ensure that the implementation is in letter and spirit. Resources need to be allocated for setting up transgender specific facilities in hospitals and welfare board in each and every state. At the same time, regular audit and evaluation of all the welfare programs meant for the upliftment of the transgender community needs to be done regularly, and all the gaps, all the loopholes need to be filled at the earliest possible time. This is the fourth issue and challenge. Fifth is the mental health challenges. Now, as the transgenders for everything, be it access to the hospitals, education, jobs, they are discriminated. That's the reason it leads to several psychological distress among the transgender individuals. And this is leading to psychological issues. At times, the people of transgender communities are thinking, contemplating of suicide. And for the same, we have to provide mental health support. The Government of India needs to provide counseling and support groups so that these groups can support the transgender community. For that, we already have a transgender welfare board, but the board is lacking tooth or is lacking the power to implement the schemes meant for the upliftment of transgender community. We also need to foster community support so that we provide resources for the transgender individuals' benefit. Sixth is the contradiction between NALSA judgment and the current. We already have discussed this point, right? The NALSA judgment has recognized the rights of transgender without undergoing medical treatment, right, or medical procedure, but the law mandates medical procedure, and that's the reason the laws should align with the Supreme Court NALSA judgment of 2014. So, the judgment and the policy should actually support each other, complement each other. So, these are the 6 challenges and solution that we have discussed. And finally, if we have to truly honor the rights of the transgender people, then we have to implement legal reforms. The implementation has to be efficient and the society needs to be sensitized. For that, we have to reform the policies. The policy should be in alignment with the Supreme Court judgment. Implementation, the scheme should be implemented in letter and spirit. Public should be sensitized so that they embrace the transgender people in the community. Most importantly, government should set accountability measure so that anyone who fails to implement the schemes meant for the upliftment of transgender community, they should be held accountable, right? So, this is how we actually help the transgender community. Actually, we are not helping them. This is the recognition given by the Supreme Court, and it is important that we follow that implementation, we follow that judgment and give the transgender community their due right, right? I hope students you understood each and every dimension of this article. Students, the title of the next topic is Supreme Court upholds validity of Tamil Nadu's Arunthathiyar quota law. In this article, we will understand about the concept of subcategorization of scheduled castes and the procedural and substantive equality. You can map this under GS paper 2. There's a previous question asked in the year 2019. The reservation of seats for women in the institutions of local self-government had a limited impact on the patriarchal character of the Indian political process, right? This was a question asked in the year 2019. What is the context? The context is that recently, that is yesterday, the Supreme Court held that subcategorization of scheduled castes is constitutional. It allowed the states to subcategorize scheduled castes. For example, let me help you understand what is subcategorization of SCs. Now, this is a scheduled caste community. There are many such castes in the scheduled caste community, right? Now, these scheduled castes are given 15% reservation. Okay. Now, subcategorization, which means the state will have the right to subcategorize the scheduled castes, which means, let's say there might be this A community in the SC which might be socially and economically backward than the other scheduled caste community. So that state would allow this community to, or the state can give this community, let's say 5% reservation. This is known as subcategorization of SC. Supreme Court allowed the states yesterday to subcategorize the SC. Now, back in the year 2009, Tamil Nadu had made a law wherein the Tamil Nadu had subcategorized a scheduled caste community and given reservation to that community. Now, the Supreme Court has upheld that law of the state of Tamil Nadu. This is the article, nothing else. I hope you understood what exactly is subcategorization of scheduled castes. Now, as I told you, the Supreme Court has ruled that subcategorization is constitutionally valid. Why? Because this subcategorization helps achieve substantive equality. There are two types of equality, procedural and substantive. What is procedural? Procedural equality says that law is the same for everyone. The law doesn't differentiate between high class and lower class. It doesn't matter if you are socially and educationally empowered or disempowered. The law will treat you same. This is procedural equality. Substantive equality says that there are inherent disparities in the society, which means the substantive equality says that not each and everyone are equal in the society. And that's the reason the ones who are socially and educationally backward, there should be reservation provided to that particular community. This is known as substantive equality, and substantive equality helps achieve equitable outcomes. I hope you understood what is the difference between procedural and substantive equality. And what is subclassification? I have just explained you the subclassification of the scheduled caste. You can please read it. Now, who are the Arunthathiyars whom the Tamil Nadu government had subcategorized and given reservation to this community? This community is a subgroup within the scheduled castes, and they are found in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. There are many subgroups under the scheduled caste. For example, these are some of the communities under the scheduled caste, right? Now, this community, the Arunthathiyar, they are historically banished from the society. The society does not include them under the common people. And that's why, because they do manual scavenging work. They do leathering work. That's the reason they are stigmatized and they are banished from the society. The society does not treat them as equal. The society separates them out. Why? Because they do menial works. As I told you, Tamil Nadu in the year 2019 had given 16% reservation to that community. Similarly, in Punjab, the Punjab state has given reservation to Balmikis and Mazhabi Sikhs within the scheduled caste category, which means now with the Supreme Court ruling that the subcategorization is constitutionally valid, this will be a precedent for other states to subcategorize the scheduled caste. This is the article about. Understood? Students, the title of the next topic is Center reissues the draft notification on eco-sensitive areas in Western Ghats. In this article, we'll understand the importance of Western Ghats, what are ecologically sensitive areas, and the Gadgil and the Kasturi Ranjan community. You can map this under GS paper 3. Previous question asked in the year 2021, differentiate the causes of landslide in the Himalayan region and the Western Ghats. Now, what is the context? So, because of the devastating landslide in Wayanad, the central government has reissued a draft notification through which the central government has classified parts of Western Ghat as ecologically sensitive areas for the 6th time in a decade. it has classified certain parts of Western Ghats as ecologically sensitive areas. Now this, as I told you, notification was reissued multiple times. Why? Because there was objection from 6 states. Which are these 6 states? Gujarat, Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. As they opposed, the central government had to reissue notification. Now, once an area is declared as ecologically sensitive area, then there will be restriction to the economic activities, which means quarrying, mining, large-scale infrastructure development project is completely banned. And that's the reason the states had opposed the central government's notification to classify certain part as ecologically sensitive area. Why the states has opposed? Because the states felt that this might impact the agriculture plantation, the hydroelectricity plants and the potential migration crisis because of the ban on the economic activities. But now, once the central government, as it has reissued notification, once it finalizes, the ESA, that is ecologically sensitive area notification, will completely ban all the economic activities in the region, right? Now, let us try to understand Western Ghat and its importance. Western Ghat is a 1600-kilometer long chain of mountains running parallel to India's western coast, and that passes through Kerala, Maharashtra, Goa, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. All these states are very important from your prelims perspective. And it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Again, a point for your prelims. Now, let us try to understand the significance of Western Ghats. All these points are very important for your prelims. So, you need to know each and every information about Western Ghats. One, there are one of 8 biodiversity hotspots of the world due to their rich biological diversity. Then, they feed a large number of perennial rivers of peninsula, that is South India, including 3 major rivers, Godavari, Krishna and Kaveri. They influence the Indian monsoon weather patterns that mediate the warm tropical climate of the region. Then they neutralize around 4 million tons of carbon every year. It also helps in the climate neutralization. They are rich in iron, manganese and bauxite. They are recognized as UNESCO World Heritage Site, and important tribes in the Western Ghats are, these are the important tribes in the Western Ghats. Right? Now, the original recommendation by the Gadgil committee proposed that the entire Western Ghats should be declared as ecologically sensitive areas, which means no economic activity should be constructed. Again, in the year later on, because the states objected to the Gadgil committee, a subsequent committee, Kasturi Ranjan, they have the protected areas, which means they declare that half of the regions in the Western Ghats are protected, which is no economic activities can be undertaken. Half it is allowed. Now, because construction or economic activities are taking place in the Western Ghats, that is leading to landslides and the subsequent death of people. And that's the reason it is very important that in the eco-sensitive regions of our country, economic activities should be completely prohibited, or apart from the environment, the people will have to pay a big price, right? I hope you understood the article. Students, the title of the next topic is Government's Big Infrastructure Push Not to Road Projects Worth 50,000 crore. Now, in this article, we'll understand about infrastructure and the different types of models under which the infrastructure projects are completed. One is build, operate, transfer model. We'll understand the other models, and you can map this under GS paper 3. Question asked in the year 2021, investment in infrastructure is essential for growth and inclusive economic growth. Discuss in light of India's experience. This can be a question in the UPSC examination. Now, what is the context? The government has approved 8 high-speed corridor projects. Now, this will cover a length of almost 1000 kilometers and constructed at the cost of 50,000 crores. Now, these projects are expected to generate 4.5 crore direct and indirect employment. 4 of these 8 highways will be constructed under BOT, that is build, operate, transfer. The 3 will be under HAM, that is hybrid annuity model, and 1 under the engineering, procurement and construction model. So, we will understand all these models. First and foremost is what is PPP model, that is public private partnership. Now, public PPP is a collaborative arrangement between public, that is the government agencies, and the private sector companies. The main aim is to leverage the strengths of government as well as the private companies and to deliver public services or the infrastructure projects more efficiently, right? Then PPP model is used for a wide range of infrastructure projects like roads, bridges, hospitals, as well as public services like water supply, waste management and development projects. Many PPPs involve long-term contracts which can last for 10, 20, 30 years. Now, this long-term approach will ensure that the private companies are committed to maintaining quality and performance, right? Now, students will understand about 3 different types of models. One is build, operate, transfer model. Now, in this model, the private sector, the private companies bearing the investment risk, they are investing money, they are building the project, they are maintaining it for a specified period. Now, they maintain it as long as they recover all the costs they had invested in that project. Here, the private company is taking all the risk first. Second, engineering, procurement and construction model. Now, here the company, the private company that is constructing the project is financed by the government. The government is giving money, but here the government owns, maintains and collects toll from the road. Second. Third, the hybrid annuity model. This is a combination of the BOT as well as the EPC model. Here, the government provides up to 40% of the project cost. The rest is managed by the private company. So, these are the 3 different types of model and this can be asked in the prelims examination. So, make sure that you know all these 3 different types of model and the advantage of the PPP model, right? Students, now it's time to discuss few questions. Now, going through these questions will help you understand if you have understood all the 5 topics that we have discussed previously, right? So, let's start with the first question. The question number 1 is, who is the current patron-in-chief of the NALSA? Very simple question. The correct answer is Chief Justice of India, B. The next, second question. The first statement, procedural equality aims to achieve equitable outcomes by recognizing and addressing inherent disparities and systemic barriers. This is incorrect. The explanation that is given in the first statement is attributed to substantive equality. This equality understands that the society has certain inherent disparities. And substantive equality focuses on ensuring fairness and equality in the processes and procedures used to make decisions. This is about the procedural equality, right? They are just swapped the statements. So, both the statements are incorrect. Option C is the correct answer. Next, Gadgil Committee report and Kasturiaranjan Committee report are related to protection of Western Ghats. Option D is the correct answer. Very easy question. Next, which of the following models involves the private sector bearing the investment risk, building the project, maintaining it for a specified period and recovering cost through toll collection during the concession period? It's the BOT model. Option C is the correct answer for question number 4. Next, this is about the EPC model and the HAM model. In the EPC model, the private company is responsible for the road construction and is paid by the government. Exactly. This is opposite to BOT. The HAM requires the private player to provide up to 40% of the project cost. No, here the government is providing 40% of the project cost. This is incorrect. Third statement, under the HAM, the private player is responsible for maintaining the road during the concession period. Yes, this is also correct. So, option C is the correct answer, 1 and 3. Now, let's discuss means question. Given that India and China are major economies and neighbors, it is important for both countries to cooperate and find solutions to the issues the South Asian region is facing. Highlight key issues in India-China relations and suggest strategies for overcoming these challenges. In the introduction, mention about the significance of India and China relations in the context of the South Asian global influence. Mention about the India-China relations, how the relations have evolved and the issues both the countries are facing. In the body, highlight about the issues that both the countries are facing. Border disputes, the western sector, Aksai chain, the eastern sector, McMahon line, trade imbalance, 85 million is the trade deficit, geopolitical rivalry with respect to South China Sea as well as the Belt and Road Initiative, trust deficit and perception issues because of the historical tensions that both the countries have. And how do you overcome it? By engaging in diplomatic talks, frequent diplomatic talks, cooperating on economic areas where both the countries can benefit from one another, cultural and people-to-people exchanges, right? This will foster goodwill, collaborating on global challenges like the climate change, the pandemic, right? And strategic trust building in order to find solution to the issues the global South is facing. And then in the conclusion, you can mention that given that both the nations are major economies, the relations between both the countries is important to improve. Why? Because by improving the relation between India and China, not only both the countries will benefit, but the entire region. That's the reason it is very important that both the relations or both the countries should cooperate, right? I hope you understood how to write this answer. So students, that's it from our DNA session. I hope you understood each and every article that we have discussed, right? So make sure that you are listening to the DNA videos on a regular basis, right? And yeah, if you want us to continue with our DNA session, then please to like, share and subscribe Narayana IAS. Thank you so much.